Chapter 106 Blue-Clothed Man. On Southern District's busiest street, South Hill Street, there was a huge residence the size of several acres. The residence's courtyard had a large black gate from which a hanging sign revealed two words, Mo Estate. Beneath the sign, 8 large, imposing men were stationed evenly on both sides of the gate. Each of these formidable men held his head high and chest out with complete concentration. With just a glance, people would never dare to look down upon their well-trained and valiant appearances. The 3-story fragrant restaurant was just across the street from the Mo Estate. The popularity of this large restaurant resounded in the entire Jiayuan city. In addition, its signature drink, 100 cents, was famous for being a great wine, and it attracted many famous customers who passed by. It was currently time for the midday meal. As a result, the fragrant restaurant was packed with people. All the tables from the first floor to the third floor were packed with eating patrons. On the road, those who were about to pass by restaurant would smell the strong aroma of food and drool with hunger, completely captivated by the smell. On the second story, a youth sat next to the window, watching the street. There were quite a few tasty side dishes on his table, along with a bottle of the famous 100 cents. Behind the youth stood a large, intimidating man. This youth was none other than Han Li, who was scouting for information. At this moment, Han Li gazed down at something from the window. He turned a small wine cup that was filled to the brim in his hand, but his food sat on the table, untouched. Overall, he seemed absent-minded and careless. Han Li shot a tilted glance at the nearby Mo Estate before looking down to the streets below him. His face's expression didn't change in the slightest. Raising his head to drink the cup of wine, he continued to look outside mysteriously. Han Li had already asked about Dr. Mo's 2 biological daughters and his adopted daughter. They had all grown up to become as delicate as a flower, as refined as a precious jade, beautiful and charming. They were known as Jiayuan City's 3 great beauties. As a result, they were often referred to as the 3 prides of the Mo Estate. Because of their beauty's great fame, they have been wooed by far too many young masters and heroic elites to count. Among these women was Mo Yuju, a peerless beauty. Amongst the 3, she was the one who was the most pursued. Thus, the news of her betrothal roused a great ruckus and broke the hearts of the men who were trying to woo her. There were a few martial artists that had challenged this young master Wu one after another. Wu Jianming ended up defeating 16 of these rivals of love in succession, thus consolidating his reputation as a peerless martial artist and causing him to be inseparable and closely intimate with Mo Yuju. Han Li thought that this matter was truly somewhat amusing and ridiculous. Others didn't know that this young master Wu had some sort of inside information. However, Han Li was aware of the entire situation. Wu Jianming was sure to have been dispatched from Dr. Mo's enemy school. It seemed that the Dr. Mo's long absence had caused his enemies to grow suspicious. This young master Wu had probably arrived to scout out the situation. Han Li did not know by what means he had been able to obtain the trust of the Mo Estate, but the letter alone probably shouldn't have been enough to easily convince Dr. Mo's wives. Han Li used his finger to lightly tap the table as he contemplated about the matter. "Young master, please sit here. The dishes you ordered should arrive at once." The waiter, wearing a short, white jacket, hurriedly led a blue-clothed man, who was 27 to 28 years old, to the second floor. In addition, the waiter had the man sit at an empty table next to Han Li. He then hastily returned to the first floor to take care of the other customers. This blue-clothed man was handsome. He had thick eyebrows, big eyes, and somewhat of a heroic air about him. After he sat down, he took a quick glimpse around his surroundings and just happened to meet Han Li's gaze. Han Li felt a profound, indescribable valiance from within the man's gaze that made him feel as if his very being was being absorbed. After a moment of shock, Han Li quickly turned his head away as his complexion faintly changed. This person was also greatly surprised. However, after giving Han Li a cold glance, he immediately turned his head, no longer paying any heed to Han Li. Han Li's complexion turned somewhat pale. Just a moment ago, a glimpse at that person had given him a feeling like that of having one's gut seen from inside out, overwhelming him with great shock. This was Han Li's first time experiencing such a glance, the kind of glance that made him feel as if his entire being had been completely exposed. After the blue-clothed man waited for his dishes to fill the table, he began to eat. Not only did he eat quite heartily, he also ate as if there were no one else there. At this moment, the frustrated Han Li was somewhat restless and worried. Although he currently didn't use the Heaven's Eye technique to observe the man, he felt quite a large amount of spiritual energy faintly emitting from the man's body, making Han Li stiff from awe. He clearly understood from this person's magic power that the man's cultivation no doubt was far deeper than his own. Back when he looked at the cultivators Yu Ji Tong and Monk Golden Light, he had only seen feeble, pathetic magic powers that completely lacked the fundamental essence of life. Upon his encounters with them, he had been able to easily get rid of them both. Thus, Han Li still didn't understand a lot about cultivators. In his mind, cultivators were a mysterious existence. He truly didn't know how he should respond to another cultivator stronger than himself. Could I not treat this blue-clothed man like Monk Golden Light and unceremoniously eliminate him with my own hand? Han Li's mind could not help but think in the worst direction. While Han Li's thoughts were in turmoil and fear, the blue-clothed man had finished eating. He wiped his mouth with a hand towel, dropped a silver ingot on the table, and left like a breeze. From the beginning until the end, he never looked at Han Li again after their initial glance. It seemed that the man had completely forgotten about Han Li. Han Li waited until after this person had completely left the restaurant before exhaling deeply and lying down on his chair, paralyzed. Although the time during which the blue-clothed man ate was short, Han Li felt as if an entire day had passed by. The stress placed upon his mind was far too great. He felt as if he had just fought a battle of life and death. At this moment, the blue-clothed person appeared at the corner of the street. A 30-year-old man wearing a yellow jacket was waiting there for him. "Old Fourth, why have you come so late? We still have to meet up with eldest brother and the others." The yellow-jacketed man had some discontent in his voice. "Second eldest brother, don't be angry. It's just that I haven't had mortal food for several years. I just went to have a taste," the blue-clothed person said with a joyful smile. "You glutton. How many times do I have to say this? We immortal cultivators should cleanse our heart of desires and abstain from gluttony, but you never listen. Your consumption will, at the very least, damage your nature greatly." The yellow-jacketed man glared at the blue-clothed person and sourly lectured him. I know, you don't have to tell me that again. Oh yeah, back at the restaurant, I saw another cultivator." The blue-clothed person tried to change the topic, hastily mentioning his encounter with Han Li. "Oh. Really? Was his magic power deep or shallow?" Sure enough, this had captured the yellow-jacketed man's attention. His magic power was quite light. It seemed as if his cultivation base had just reached the 7th or 8th layer. He barely has the qualifications to participate in the Immortal Ascension Assembly. This truly does not make sense. With such shallow magic power, did he come to the land province to exploit some sort of opportunity? Could it be that he truly believes that he will come across unexpected success and obtain the final victory at the Great Immortal Ascension Assembly? The blue-clothed man flung these words from his mouth. Is he young or old? He looked to be 17 to 18 years old. If that is the case, he definitely followed his elders here in order to increase his experience and broaden his horizons. I reckon that in the Immortal Ascension Assembly 10 years from now, this talent would genuinely be able to participate. The yellow-jacketed man said with a smile. I say. When you say it like that, his talent can be considered decent. If he comes back in 10 years, he could reach my level. The blue-clothed man said proudly. Stop boasting. Your cultivation base has merely reached the 10th layer. Every year the Immortal Ascension Assembly produces many cultivators at this level. Once you've trained to the 11th or 12th layer, then you will be given the qualifications to boast. The yellow-jacketed man said while laughing cheerfully. Truly, if I hadn't used the Foundation Establishment pill, I could have trained to a level higher than the 10th layer, but then, what Immortal Ascension Assembly could I have participated in? I wouldn't have been able to find a master. The blue-clothed man pouted and murmured before following the yellow-jacketed man and leaving the area.